Hey guys, the purpose of this video is to continue our work with simple interest. So far you've been finding the amount of interest earned when a certain amount of money is invested or borrowed at a specific interest rate for a certain period of time. Today we're going to look at what happens if you're trying to solve for something other than the interest. Maybe you're trying to find the principal that was invested, or the interest rate, or the time. When we combine your knowledge of simple interest with your ability to solve equations, you'll be able to solve for any of the unknown pieces. Alright, let's take a look at this example. Say you invested $5,000 at a rate of 7.5%. I want to know how long will it take you to have made $2,250 in interest. Alright, well let's always start by copying down the formula we're going to use to help us. Interest equals principal times rate times time. Let's see which pieces of this formula we know. Alright, we know our interest was $2,250. We know the amount that we invested, our principal, was $5,000. And we know our interest rate, let me grab another color here. Our interest rate is 7.5%. Remember, you always have to write that as a decimal, so that's 0.075. All right. But what we don't know and what we're trying to find here is the amount of time that it would take, because we're looking for how long. We're looking for our t. So we're going to take all this and multiply it by t. Okay, so now we have an equation that we can solve to figure out what t is. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take 5,000 times 0.075 and see what I get. So I do 5,000 times 0.075 and I get 375. So I multiplied that. I still have my t, my time here. I'm going to stick with my original color here. I still have my time. And that's all still equal to $2,250. And now we go ahead and divide both sides by 375 so that we can isolate that variable and get t by itself. So 2,250 divided by 375, and I see that t equals 6. So that means in 6 years I would have made $2,250 in interest. And I can check that by taking my principal, 5,000, times my interest rate, 0.075, times 6, and I should get 2,250, and I do. So I know that my answer is correct. Alright, let's take a look at another example here. This problem says you make $30.96 in interest after investing money in your savings account for 3 years. If the interest rate was 4%, how much money did you invest? Alright, first thing I'm going to look at here is, in this one, I'm going to try to figure out what are they asking me to find. Okay, if we're looking for how much money was invested, I'm looking to figure out how much I started with or what my principal was. So my principal is my unknown in this situation. So let's start by always recording our formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. And let's fill in all the values that we know. We know our interest was $30.96. We don't know our principal, so I'm going to keep my p there. My rate was 4%, so that's 0.04. And now they tell us the time was 3 years. So we multiply all that by 3. So we want to know what amount was invested at 4% for 3 years that yielded $30.96 in interest. So again, we have an equation. We can use our equation solving skills to solve this problem. So we're going to multiply the two that we know over on the right side of our equation. And I have 0.04 times 3, and I have p times 0.12, or you could write that as 0.12 times p. They both work. Alright, so now we have principal times 0.12 equals 30.96. So we divide by how many p's we have in this case. And that cancels it out and gets P, I'm going to put this over here, gets P alone on one side of our equation. And we do 3096 divided by 0.12, and I get 258. So that tells me that I invested $258 into my savings account. And after 3 years at 4%, I made $30.96 in interest. Don't forget to go in and put your label on your final answer. Alright, for our last example here, it says we invested $1,000 for 9 years and got $225 back in interest. And I want to know what was the interest rate. So for this one, we start with our equation. Interest equals principal times rate times time. In this one, we know the amount of interest, $225. We know how much we invested, or we know our principal. We don't know our rate, so I can put times R. And we know our time was 9 years. Okay, remember, since multiplication is commutative, we can kind of switch this around a little bit. I'm going to do 225 equals 1,000 times 9. It doesn't have to be 1,000 times R first. You can do 1,000 times 9 first. And so we get 9,000 times R. And to get R by itself, we divide both sides by 9,000. And we're left with 225 divided by 9,000 is 0.025. That's not our final answer, but it's going to help us. Okay, remember, when we put our interest rate into the equation, we always need to turn it into a decimal. So when it comes out as a decimal out of our equation, we need to turn it back into a percent. So just like if you had a percent and you wanted to turn it into a decimal, you divide it by 100. To undo that, you need to multiply by 100. So if you get a rate of 0.025, multiply that by 100, or in essence, you're just moving your decimal 2 to the right, and you'll see that that's 2.5%. So in this problem, it was a 2.5% interest rate. And you can check that answer by doing 1,000 times 9 times 0.025, and you'll get 225 out as your answer. So let's take a quick minute here to recap. When you use the formula interest equals principal times rate times time, you'll know 3 of the 4 pieces. And to solve for the 4th piece, the unknown, you just need to use your equation solving skills to work backwards and get the variable all by itself, and that will tell you your final answer. And it's always a good idea to go back in and check it by multiplying your principal times your rate times your time, and make sure that you end up with the interest that was given. We'll go through this a lot more in class tomorrow, but email me if you have questions or let me know how I can help further. Thanks.